Hi, welcome to day 37 of Science Challenge. Today we're going to have a think about the effect of the acidification of the oceans on marine life that lives in the oceans. So a few days ago we did a couple of science challenges. The first one was making a red cabbage indicator, and the second was looking at the acidification of the oceans. And when there's more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, what happens is some of that dissolves into the ocean and it forms an acid called carbonic acid, which lowers the pH of the ocean and can cause major problems for the marine life that live there. Okay, so today we're going to investigate what happens to marine life in an acidic condition. So if that ocean becomes acidic because of the increased carbon dioxide due to the release of greenhouse gases, the pH of the ocean falls, what's going to happen to the marine life? We don't live anywhere near the ocean, so we're going to do the experiment with empty snail shells. But if you do live by the ocean, you could go out onto the beach and find yourself some shells. If, like me, you live nowhere near the coast, just go into the garden or into a local park and try and find some empty snail shells. So birds like to pick out the snails from the shells, so you'll quite often find in your garden empty shells. So here I've got one that's been broken open by a bird. Please make sure that there's no snail in there. We don't want to be hurting any snails in this experiment. You're also going to need two little containers. Okay, now I've got 2 jars, but you could use glasses or larger jars, doesn't matter. You're going to need some vinegar. So this is going to represent our acidified ocean, and you're going to need some water, which is going to act as a control. Okay, so into jar A, I'm going to pour some water, and into jar B, I'm going to pour some vinegar. Okay. I've labelled them because my vinegar is distilled, and so it looks exactly like water. I could obviously, if I hadn't labelled them, I could just smell them to see which is the difference, but I've labelled them. Okay, so I've got my jars A and B set up. Now, depending on what equipment you've got at home, you might be able to do this experiment really, really well. Okay, if you've got a very sensitive balance, you might be able to weigh your snail shell before and after you put it in these jars. Okay, if you were going to do that, then there's a little results table here that you could record your results in. So you could measure the mass of your snail shell before. We're going to leave it for a couple of days. Okay, then at the end you could measure your mass after, calculate a difference, and then you could even calculate a percentage change depending on what year at school you're at. Probably after about year 8, year 9. You might be wanting to calculate a percentage change. You do that by dividing the difference, so this column, by the starting mass, timesing by 100 to get a percentage. Okay, so it's a really good way of looking at how the shell has changed. Unfortunately, I've got a weighing scale here, which is just what I use in the kitchen, but it's not sensitive enough to weigh these snail shells. I'm just getting 0. If we were at school, we'd have the really sensitive balances and we'd be able to measure to 0.1 of a gram, but these only measure to the closest gram. But if you've got good weighing scales at home, by all means do it like that. I'm going to have to, because my weighing scales are not good enough, I'm going to have to do just my observations. Okay, so observations before and observations after. I'm going to be putting one of my shells in water. That's going to act as a control. And I'm going to put one in vinegar to see what effect acid has on my shells. Okay, so in my observations comment, I might just say that they're a little bit hard, they're a bit brittle. I might comment that this one has already got a hole in it. Okay, so if this is A, I might write in there that it's got a hole in, and that they feel quite hard, but they're brittle. Okay, I'm going to write those observations into those. Give your snail shells a rinse. Just make sure that there's no mud or grime in them. And then all you're going to do is you're going to pop them into your 2 jars. Okay, you're now going to leave them for a few days, and we're going to revisit them after 2 or 3 days. Okay, anyway, remember to record some observations before. If you can, do a mass as well. Unfortunately, my weighing scales wasn't good enough, but maybe you've got better ones. Anyway, let's have a look in a few days, see what happens.